Fantomah, the curse of the bloodroot. The man jolted at the sound, spinning around. The museum was empty, save for the silent exhibits of artifacts from forgotten lands. Yet the whisper remained, a chilling presence in the air. The mask felt alive in his trembling hands, wet and pulsing with a dark energy that seemed to spread, reaching for him like the vines he had heard about in campfire tales. He knew he should be afraid, but curiosity was a seductive serpent, coiling around his mind. He studied the mask, tracing the intricate carvings with his finger. As he did so, images flickered before his eyes, visions of the jungle, the dance of the cult, and Fantomah's fiery wrath. A chill ran down his spine as he realized he had stumbled upon something far more than a mere relic. It was a piece of a story that continued to unfold, a chapter of terror and power that had somehow found its way into his mundane world. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of ancient voices, each telling a different piece of the story. They spoke of the curse that had been placed upon the jungle, a curse that grew stronger with every drop of innocent blood spilled. They spoke of the bloodroot's hunger, the way it could twist and manipulate those who sought power. The man felt his grip on reality slipping as the whispers grew more insistent, demanding he return the mask to its rightful place. He staggered back, dropping the mask to the floor. It shattered into 100 pieces, the sap spilling out and pooling around his feet. The light from his flashlight grew dimmer, and the air grew thick with a sense of foreboding. He knew he had made a grave mistake, one that could unravel the very fabric of the world he knew. The whispers grew to a crescendo, and from the shadows the vines began to emerge, twisting, reaching, hungry for the warmth of life. The man tried to flee, his heart racing with terror, but the vines grew faster than he could move. He felt their cold embrace tighten around him, heard the echo of Fantomah's voice in his mind. "The jungle does not forgive," she warned, "and neither do I." The vines pulled him down into the earth, back to the jungle from which the mask had come. His screams were swallowed by the darkness, leaving only the echo of the whispers and the knowledge that he was now part of the eternal cycle of punishment and rebirth that was the curse of the bloodroot. And somewhere deep in the jungle, Fantomah watched, her eyes glowing with a newfound purpose. The battle was not over. The cult had merely been the tip of a much darker, more ancient root that had only just begun to surface. The jungle would need her protection once more. The whispers grew faint, the vines retreating into the earth. The ruins lay quiet, a silent monument to the horror that had once taken place there. But the jungle itself remained vigilant, its eyes ever open for the next sign of the cult's return. And Fantomah, the avatar of vengeance, waited for the night to call her forth once again. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew distant. The children grew strong, their nightmares slowly fading into the fabric of their lives. Yet the fear remained in their hearts, a quiet reminder of the terror they had faced and the savior who had delivered them from it. In the bustling city, the man's disappearance became a footnote in the annals of the museum's history. The mask was forgotten, dismissed as a macabre prank or the result of a madman's delirium. But the jungle held its secrets close, the whispers continuing to spread, searching for those who would dare to awaken the curse of the bloodroot once more. The whispers grew stronger, more insistent. A new seeker had emerged, one who craved power above all else. The whispers promised them dominion over the land, the ability to bend the very fabric of existence to their will. It was all they needed to hear. They ventured into the jungle, following the siren's call of the bloodroot, oblivious to the fate that awaited them. The jungle grew restless, its whispers growing into a roar that shook the very trees. The time had come for Fantomah to rise once more, to face the new threat that sought to feed the root's insatiable hunger. As the moon grew full and crimson, the ivory-skinned goddess felt the pull of her duty, the weight of her power surging through her veins. The air grew thick with anticipation as she stepped into the night, her gown shimmering like the ghosts of the slain. The jungle watched, a silent witness to the eternal dance of darkness and light that was about to unfold. The seeker of power approached the ancient clearing, the whispers guiding them to the very spot where Fantomah had claimed her victory. And as the first drop of blood fell to the earth, the whispers grew silent. The jungle held its breath. The curse of the bloodroot was about to be tested once more. Fantomah emerged from the shadows, her eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. She saw the seeker, their eyes gleaming with greed, their hand poised to plunge a dagger into the heart of the jungle. She knew the price of this act, knew the horror that would be unleashed. With a speed that defied the eye, she struck. The dagger was torn from the seeker's grasp, flung into the night to be lost among the whispers. The would-be cultist stumbled back, their face a mask of shock and fear as Fantomah's true form was revealed. The transformation was swift and merciless. Her skin grew darker, the glow of her eyes more intense. Her gown became a whirlwind of leaves and thorns, the very essence of the jungle itself. Her voice boomed like the roar of 1,000 beasts as she spoke the ancient incantations that had laid waste to the cult. The seeker fell to their knees, begging for mercy. But Fantomah offered none. Her power surged through the clearing, the vines writhing in response, forming a prison of living thorns around the trespasser. The bloodroot trembled, feeling the anger of the jungle's guardian. With a gesture, she called forth the spirits of those who had suffered at the hands of the cult. They rose from the earth, a spectral army of vengeance. The seeker's screams were lost in the cacophony of the jungle's fury. The vines tightened, the thorns piercing flesh and bone. The seeker's body began to change, twisting and warping into a new form, one that would never again threaten the jungle's balance. A tree grew from the spot where they had knelt, a living testament to the power of the bloodroot and the price of its misuse. The whispers grew faint once more, the jungle sighing in relief. But Fantomah knew the curse was not vanquished. It was merely resting, biding its time for the next foolish soul to seek power in the heart of darkness. As dawn broke, the whispers grew distant once again, retreating into the shadows of the jungle. Fantomah stood tall, her power receding, her form returning to that of a mortal woman. She knew that her work was never done, that the balance was a fragile thing, easily disrupted. With a heavy heart, she turned and disappeared into the foliage, leaving behind the new tree and the echoes of the night's battle. The jungle would heal, as it always did. But the memory of the bloodroot's curse remained, a reminder of the eternal struggle between life and darkness that lay at the heart of all things. The whispers grew fainter, but they never disappeared completely. They waited, patiently, for the next time the jungle called for vengeance. And Fantomah, ever vigilant, waited with them, ready to rise and punish those who would dare to disturb the sacred balance of her domain. The days passed, the jungle's whispers becoming a distant memory in the city. Yet the tale of the curse spread, whispered in the streets and the markets. Some spoke of a vengeful spirit, others of a lost goddess. All knew that the jungle was not to be trifled with. But whispers can be tempting, especially to those who crave power. In the shadows of the city, a new figure began to gather followers, spinning a new myth of the bloodroot's might. They spoke of a world where the strong ruled and the weak served, a world where the very fabric of reality could be reshaped at their command. Fantomah felt the echoes of the whispers in her soul, the call of the jungle growing stronger. The time of rest had ended. The cycle was beginning anew. The night grew ripe with the promise of a storm, the air charged with the scent of ozone. Fantomah knew what was to come. Her transformation was no longer a choice, it was a duty, one she had accepted when she first felt the whisper's call. Her eyes glowed with the fire of 1,000 suns as she stepped into the jungle, the very earth shuddering beneath her feet. The whispers grew louder, guiding her to the new gathering of the cult. Their numbers had swelled, drawn by the promise of power and immortality. The bloodroot grew more potent with each new acolyte, its tendrils reaching further into the hearts of men. The clearing was once again alive with the sickly pulse of the blackened root, the air thick with the scent of corruption. Fantomah moved through the trees, unseen and unheard, a silent specter of fate. The cultists were lost in their frenzied dance, the crimson moon casting eerie shadows across their twisted forms. As the final incantation was uttered, Fantomah revealed herself, her eyes burning with the intensity of a supernova. The cultists froze, their chanting dying on their lips as they stared at the living embodiment of the whispers they had sought to manipulate. The battle was swift and terrible. The vines that had once been the cult's allies turned against them, writhing and snaking through the clearing with a ferocity born of the jungle's wrath. The air crackled with energy as Fantomah called upon the ancient spirits of the land, their voices joining in a thunderous roar that shook the very heavens. The new leader of the cult, a woman with eyes like pools of shadow, stepped forward. She sneered at Fantomah, raising her arms to the sky. The bloodroot beneath them surged with power, the earth opening to swallow the jungle's protectress whole. But Fantomah was not so easily vanquished. With a scream that pierced the night, she released a torrent of pure, searing light, the very essence of life itself. The vines writhed and convulsed, the darkness retreating before the onslaught of her power. The cultists were thrown back, their forms twisted and broken as they were consumed by the very earth they had sought to dominate. The shadowy leader watched in horror as her followers fell, her own power waning in the face of Fantomah's fury. But she was not without a final gambit. She reached into the heart of the bloodroot, tearing free a handful of its most vital essence. With a cackle that sent shivers down Fantomah's spine, she threw it into the air. The essence grew and grew, forming a monstrous vine creature that lurched towards the goddess, its thorns gleaming with malice. Fantomah hovered above the fray, her eyes narrowing with determination. The whispers grew to a crescendo in her mind, urging her on. The time had come to end this cycle of destruction once and for all. With a gesture that seemed to still the very air, she called forth the full might of the jungle. The earth trembled as trees uprooted themselves, joining the battle as living weapons. The creature of shadow and thorns roared in defiance, but it was no match for the combined fury of the jungle and its protector. The vine creature writhed and thrashed, but Fantomah was relentless. Her power grew, fed by the very lifeblood of the land. The jungle itself seemed to come alive, each plant and animal joining her in the fight. The creature grew weaker, its form dissolving into a pool of inky darkness. The shadowy leader watched in disbelief as her power was torn away, her body withering into dust beneath the unyielding gaze of Fantomah. The whispers grew quiet. The battle was over. The jungle had claimed its vengeance. Fantomah descended, her glowing form dimming as she returned to the earth. The survivors of the cult lay scattered, whimpering in the dirt. She looked upon them with a mix of pity and anger. "You sought power," she intoned, her voice still echoing with the authority of the gods. "But you forgot the price. The jungle does not forgive." With that, she vanished into the night, leaving the survivors to ponder the cost of their folly. The jungle remained still, its whispers now a gentle lullaby, lulling the land back into a fragile peace.